Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Best Ball Mania on Underdog Fantasy is here. Finally, it is best ball season once again. The NFL draft is in the rearview mirror, and our fantasy drafts are right there on the road in front of us. They're clearly on Underdog Fantasy going to be releasing more tournaments. The puppy, the $5 tournament, the big dog that's like $250. I haven't seen anything from DraftKings, but I would assume that DraftKings is also going to release their best ball product at the low, medium, and high range. I have a strategy for you guys today that I am trying to employ, at least in my early draft, that kind of flies in the face of convention as it sits right now. We have spent the last 5 to 10 years really hyper focusing on waiting to draft quarterbacks, picking them later. Everybody knows that in best ball you need to stack, but you're also going to have to get very different. So this draft strategy is not for your sit and go leagues, not for your 10 teamers, not for your 12 teamers where you're only competing against those people. This is not for your friends and family league either. But if you're going to be competing in this best ball tournaments where, like, you know, you got to beat out 451,000 of your closest friends to try and take down the $1 million for the regular season prize, the $2 million for winning the entire playoffs, or the $1 million for coming in second place, you're going to have to get different. You're going to have to shoot for outliers. So I've got a little bit of a different strategy that makes a lot of sense, at least to me. If you disagree, leave me a reply down below in the comments. Thank you guys for being here on the Fantasy Football channel. So please subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this video, ring the notifications bell, leave me a reply, share the video with your friends, do something, and let's go.
He's a legend.
So you're going to have to forgive me for the intro because apparently just this morning, I checked this yesterday, and DraftKings had not released their schedule. Now, everything isn't on the menu yet. They still have some places on their splash page where there's four major tournaments that they have. Only one of them has been released. It's this one, the $5 tournament, $3.5 million, $1 million to first place. They have some single entry tournaments, high dollar, low dollar, $200, $2,000, a $3 tournament, the play action 20 max. So a lot of different buy-ins and a lot of different maximums and minimums for what you can enter. If you wanted to check out what they have over on Underdog Fantasy, Best Ball Mania 3, right now, the largest tournament that is out there with what? $2 million to first, $1 million to second, $500,000 to third place, and an additional $1 million winner for whoever is the highest scoring team during the regular season before you advance to playoffs, I believe, in week 14. So just absolutely sicko best ball tournaments this year. If you use promo code ALSMIZZLE at sign up, all one word, ALSMIZZLE on Underdog Fantasy, you get a deposit match up to $100. So if you deposit $100 as a new customer, you get $100 that you can use on Pick'em or Best Ball or whatever you want. So definitely take advantage of that. Everybody knows that stacking is super important. And like I said during the intro, it's become commonplace to wait on quarterbacks. The problem is the price of quarterback has gone up dramatically over the last X amount of years, right? The last year or two, quarterback prices have started to shoot up, specifically in best ball. So this strategy that I'm going to talk to you about today, this quarterback outlier strategy, the quarterback MVP strategy that I like to employ so far in my drafts this year. One, to differentiate because I'm going to pay up a little bit more at quarterback. And two, to get a combination of players that a lot of other people aren't going to have is going to hopefully propel me to a higher regular season score, come in top 2 in my league and advance to the playoffs while still having a shot at taking everything down once you get there. So you need to think about what it takes for a quarterback to be an MVP candidate, a finalist, right? So somebody that is in that spot, somebody that is getting you to that spot is probably going to be approaching or surpassing 5,000 passing yards and 40 touchdown passes. It's known that if you have a wide receiver that you think is going to have a good season, or 2 wide receivers on a team that you think might have good seasons at their ADP, that doesn't always translate to a quarterback having an MVP type year. And it doesn't even mean that that quarterback's going to be super duper viable, even if those guys are, because it might be in a low volume pass game offense and they don't contribute anything on the ground. And that type of quarterback can throw for like 3,800 yards and 25 touchdowns and support 1 or 2 wide receivers who are very viable in fantasy, but also not making that stack super duper viable in terms of a season long sort of play. So I want to focus on the other direction, where like every square is a rectangle by definition, but not every rectangle is a square. If we work the other direction and say, well, if Josh Allen has the year that he has had the last two, where he's throwing for 45-ish 100 yards and 35 plus touchdowns, or Tom Brady, where he's throwing the ball 600 to 700 times, throwing for about 5,000 yards and 40 plus touchdowns, you are going to carry other players along with you that catch the football. So we're going to focus on a couple of those things. So let's go look over at the DraftKings Sportsbook, take a look at who the top 10 quarterback MVP candidates are, and let's focus on the ones that are high volume throwers, because there's one in there, Jalen Hurts, at the 10th highest odds right now, who could do some things. They did get him AJ Brown. They do have Devontae Smith going into his second year, and Goddard. So you have guys that you could stack him with, but is this going to be a passing offense that's going to throw it 600 to 650 times this year, where he is going to carry along two of those guys on a week in, week out basis? Does he play in a division that looks to get in a ton of shootouts, or are there improving defenses around that division, which is kind of how it looks right now, where they're going to get into a little bit more slugfest? And they were a team that ran the ball a ton last year. Most teams that have running quarterbacks do tend to have a lot more rushing attempts. Lamar Jackson led teams, Kyler Murray led teams, and now Jalen Hurts led teams are going to quite simply run the ball more than teams that have Tom Brady running it like 8 times each for 1 yard. So players like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Brady, Burrow, Wilson, Stafford, and possibly even somebody like Dak Prescott, just going to total up more passing yards, more passing attempts, and theoretically more passing touchdowns, though Dak a little bit tougher now, minus his quarterback. So we're going to go take a look at Best Ball Mania advance rates. You guys can find this link. I'll put it in the description down below to see who got there last year by advance rate alone. And you look down here, 31% of the teams that advanced had Tom Brady and those 650 passing attempts, those 5,000 yards, those 40 plus touchdowns. Mike Evans was in that group. Rob Gronkowski was in that group. As we know, stacking is extremely viable, specifically in best ball, because we don't have to use the transactions and find those times. So the first guy that I want to focus on, at least in terms of ADP, Josh Allen, right now has an ADP of 24.9. And I know he's obvious, right? But the reason why Josh Allen stacks are going to be less common than, let's say, they should, I would say that sharp players are going to force the Josh Allen stack, because it doesn't fit with what ADP is. With Josh Allen going around the 2-3 turn, if you draft his number one wide receiver, Steph Diggs, who is going at 10.3, you either have to reach for Josh Allen in the second round. If you pick 10th, you got to draft Josh Allen around 15? Which is 10 spots ahead of ADP, and eschew all these other guys that are in that range from that spot. So you're jumping over CeeDee Lamb, Travis Kelce, Deebo Samuel, Mark Andrews, and you're taking a quarterback at the top half of the second round if you want to get that stack, which I think is going to hold down the amount of players that are on that stack. But if we take a look at the rest of that Buffalo Bills depth chart, Diggs, as we said, the wide receiver 5 right now, being drafted at 10.3. Gabriel Davis on the other side is the 56th overall pick on ADP on Underdog via their real money drafts right now, is the wide receiver 26. And Dawson Knox was extremely viable last year, being drafted as the tight end 9 at pick 97. If you want to get a little bit spicy, if you miss out on one of these guys, Jamison Crowder is going like the 14th or 15th rounds and should slide in as his number 1 slot receiver. The spot vacated by Cole Beasley last year, and we realized how viable Cole Beasley was on a week in, week out basis in DFS, or if you don't have to make that transaction for him in best ball as well, where you just get his big games where he catches 8 to 10 balls and a touchdown with 100-ish yards. My second quarterback that I want to focus on, coming right down the list, this is another premium quarterback, is Justin Herbert. You know he's going to throw the ball 600 to 650 times. You know where the ball's going. And you're going to have to take a real leap of faith on this Chargers offense if you wanted to get there. Taking a look at the depth chart, and we can come back to that Underdog page in just a minute if you need to see it. Assuming you're drafting in the middle of the first round, right? The 6-7 pick, somewhere around there. Austin Eckler has an ADP of 6.8 and has a tremendous target market share on this team and catches a lot of touchdowns from Justin Herbert. Probably too many touchdown passes caught from Justin Herbert. On the other side of that, Keenan Allen on the wrong side of variance. When it comes to, I would expect him to see an increase in his touchdown catches this season. Has an ADP of 28 as the wide receiver 12. And Mike Williams, which is where most of these passes are going to go, has an ADP of 39.8 with Justin Herbert at 47. So if you were to go Chargers heavy in the first 4 rounds of a draft, you could end up with 3 to 4 of these pieces, then pick up somebody like Gerald Everett, who they nabbed in free agency really late, as his ADP is extremely low if we just isolate for tight ends. You could get him around like the last round of drafts. He's going around the 175th pick. You're drafting him around, round 16, 17 to complete that stack with a double, or possibly as a triple stack as your tight end 2, where you can capture all of the upside to go along with your Justin Herbert pick. But this one, I believe, is going to be a little bit more unique because you're spending 3 of your first round picks, 3 of your 4 first round picks, if not 4 of your first 4 first round picks on players from the same team. Players are going to get antsy. They're not going to commit. Sometimes you're not going to get there because somebody's going to snipe one of your players if you're going for that type of a stack. So the uniqueness of both the Bills and Chargers stacks, because of those 2 reasons, I think are more viable to go with this quarterback outlier type of approach. If you have not already, go check out establishtherun.com. There's a link down below. Smizzle.tv/ETR will take you there. Their draft kit is already up. You can couple it for a major discount with their in-season DFS product that lasts for 12 months from the point that you purchase it. So you can get this year's draft kit. You can also get next year's draft kit, at least for a couple of months before that goes around, as well as locking in a discount on their in-season product. And if you use that promo code SmizLife at checkout, you get a discount off of that, 10%, I believe, as well. Our next stack is an obvious one that a lot of people are going to go for. Patrick Mahomes is really good. It's not that hard, right? We don't have to overcomplicate. It's not that hard, and we don't really have to overcomplicate things to just know that Patrick Mahomes is going to throw the ball. Now, look, I'm of the mindset that he's going to take a bit of a step back this season in terms of his efficiency, but on volume and passing yards and touchdowns, I don't see him taking that large of a step back. Tyreek Hill has been a historical difference maker in terms of his ability to get loose deep, but Patrick Mahomes himself is a difference maker in the way that he can distribute the football and attack deep. They still have weapons on this team, and they're coming in at not really high ADP. So you can attack these guys to go with your Patrick Mahomes stack. You would take Mahomes first because that's where you'd be getting on ADP, where he's sitting at around an ADP of 38. Edwards-Helaire, I don't need him for this stack, for this build, but he's going around like the 90s right now. Juju Smith-Schuster is the 27th wide receiver off the board with an ADP of 57.1. I'm not drafting Mecole Hardman. It's enough already. You guys can take him. I would rather go get MVS at 108.7, and I'm expecting big things out of Sky Moore, the rookie. You're going to have to overpay to get him. That's the thing. He started out in the first few drafts at like an ADP of 105. That ADP has risen to like 82 currently, going as the wide receiver 39, big time skills, and somebody that could be used as a massive target hog for him in this offense to kind of soak up. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the number 1 outside target. I think that Sky Moore could be number 2 on the inside, but their number 1 target is going to be Travis Kelce. It just is what it is. You're going to get a tremendous floor with him. I don't know if the ceiling's going to be there. It should be there if they just throw him the ball in the end zone, because like he had like the least end zone targets that he's had over the last 5 years last year. Makes absolutely no sense, but the absence of Tyreek Hill should increase his end zone targets. You're getting him in like the first round at the 1-2 turn. So he would be the first person you're drafting in this stack. And then if you get Patrick Mahomes in round, at around 38, you have your primary stack and then can fill in hopefully with somebody like Juju or MVS or Sky Moore a little bit later to give you 2 or 3 players to go along with him. But if you draft Travis Kelce and somebody snipes Mahomes, you're still doing pretty all right. He's fine as a standalone play. You don't need the quarterback to go with him, but I would go after it. 1, for uniqueness. 2, because I'm expecting it. Like, look, we've already named 2 AFC West quarterbacks. The AFC West, yes, they beefed up all of their defenses because of how ridiculous the quarterback play is in that division. Carr has been a very viable quarterback, and now he's the worst quarterback in the division. That is not saying anything bad about Carr. It's just, it is what it is when we talk about guys like Herbert and Mahomes and Russell Wilson, who is on this list for me, one of my top 5 MVP quarterback stacks that I want to build. This one is a little bit easier, and I think it's going to be less unique. So that's the drawback to this stack, because Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy right now are going at pick 50.7 for Jeudy. Cortland Sutton has an ADP of 52.4. They're going as the wide receiver 23 and 24. If you're drafting number 1, you could think about taking them at the 4-5 turn and nab both of them, and you get, basically all of his guys. And then on the way back at the next turn, because Russ Wilson has an ADP of 75.8 right now, you could get the QB9 off the board with his top 2 targets, and then take Albert Aquabunum, or just Alberto, if you don't want to try to pronounce that, at pick 138. So you can get a double or a triple stack with the Green Bay Packers coaching staff that they've brought in, because we all thought that they were going after Aaron Rodgers. This is going to be an extremely pass-heavy offense. We may see attempts from Russ Wilson that we really haven't seen in a few years. 558, 400. We might see 650 pass attempts with a ridiculously gifted set of pass catchers and good pass catching running backs to go along with it, with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon III behind them. Deep threat like KJ Hamler. Tim Patrick is an extremely viable wide receiver going in around the 130s right now. So the Denver stacks, I think, are going to be extremely popular. They're very easy to draft in terms of ADP, which is why I think that this one's going to be a little bit more common than the first 3 that I named. And another one that's going to be a little bit less is the Tampa Bay Tom Brady stacks. Coming back for one more year, probably going to throw for around 4,800 to 5,000 yards, probably going to throw for around 40 touchdowns, and you know where they're going to go. It's going to go to Mike Evans. It's going to go to Chris Godwin as he returns from surgery. But the one that is a little bit off the reservation is Russell Gage with an ADP of 101 right now, the 47th wide receiver off the board. Mike Evans' ADP is 20.7, so you got to take him at the second half of the second round. Chris Godwin, the back end of the 4th round with an ADP of 45, is the wide receiver 21 off the board. And we don't know what the tight end situation is going to look like because Gronk is still up in the air, and we don't really know when or where he's going to go. So it's something that you kind of have to massage as the summer goes along. Maybe Cam Brate is the guy. Maybe it's, maybe we see a little bit more from somebody else. Maybe Gronk comes back and takes over the primary role. We're in a wait and see mode there. But if you just wanted to stack up with the wide receivers and maybe take a really late flyer on Cam Brate with Tom Brady as your quarterback, who has an ADP of 73, you can't really go wrong as everybody else chases the running quarterbacks and the upside and the floor that they bring. You saw how many of the teams that advanced had those Brady doubles last year. So Tom Brady still viable at the ripe young age of, what is he now, 64 years old? Congratulations to him for being an AARP member and still doing it every year. So thank you guys for watching. Drop a like on the video. Look out for another one. Gronk will be back. Maybe. Brady's still younger than you? I turned 84 yesterday.
He's a legend.